In the vast theater of global power, a new force rises silently, yet with unstoppable momentum. A nation once underestimated now commands the gaze of the world. From its ancient roots to its modern stride, India emerges not merely as a participant, but as a challenger to the established order. Today, we uncover the reasons why India has become the world's biggest fear. The unstoppable rise of India's economic power is one of the most significant transformations the world is witnessing in the 21st century. For decades, India was perceived as a land of untapped potential, a sleeping giant with immense resources but limited ability to harness them. That perception has now been shattered as India positions itself among the world's largest economies, racing ahead with a pace that has left policymakers, analysts, and rival nations both in awe and in apprehension. What makes India's economic ascent particularly striking is that it has not been born out of chance, but rather out of calculated reforms, technological innovation, demographic strength, and an unwavering determination to carve out a leading place in the global order. This rise is not just about numbers and statistics. It is about influence, about the shifting balance of power, and about the fear it instills in those who once held economic dominance unchallenged. India's journey began with its strategic embrace of economic liberalization in the early 1990s, a move that transformed its trajectory forever. From a largely closed and heavily regulated economy, India began opening its doors to global trade and investment. This integration with global markets sparked a wave of growth that has only accelerated with time. Multinational corporations flocked to India, drawn by its vast labor pool and growing consumer base. Over the years, the nation refined its infrastructure, invested in industries, and cultivated an entrepreneurial spirit that turned India into a hub for both innovation and production. What makes this rise remarkable is that India has not simply followed the path of other emerging economies, but has instead crafted its own model, one that combines service-driven growth, industrial expansion, and digital transformation. At the core of India's economic might is its people. With a population exceeding 1.4 billion, the country possesses a demographic dividend unlike any other. More than half of its citizens are under the age of 30, creating a young, dynamic workforce that fuels productivity and innovation. Global corporations see India not only as a market but also as the engine of their future growth. From IT outsourcing to high-tech manufacturing, from renewable energy to biotechnology, India's skilled labor force provides the backbone for industries that are shaping the world of tomorrow. This is not merely about providing cheap labor. It is about delivering skilled, innovative, and adaptive professionals who are setting new global benchmarks. For competitors, this demographic advantage represents not just growth, but a looming challenge. For few nations can match such a vast and talented pool of human capital. India's digital transformation has become another defining pillar of its economic rise. The development of platforms like Odhai, UPI, and the rapid adoption of fintech solutions have created a digital ecosystem that is both inclusive and revolutionary. The country has leapfrogged traditional stages of development, moving directly into a digital-first economy. This has not only connected millions of rural citizens into the mainstream economy, but also given India a competitive edge in creating scalable models for the world. Its IT sector, led by giants such as Infosys, TCS, and Wipro, continues to expand globally, while Indian startups are rising into the ranks of unicorns at an unprecedented pace. For the West, which once saw itself as the epicenter of technological innovation, India's rapid digital growth serves as a warning that the balance of economic power is no longer guaranteed. Another key factor in India's unstoppable economic momentum is its growing role in global supply chains. So, the pandemic exposed the vulnerabilities of overdependence on a single country for critical goods and manufacturing, and many nations began shifting their focus toward India as a reliable alternative. With its Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat initiatives, the country is strategically positioning itself as the manufacturing hub of the future. From electronics to pharmaceuticals, from semiconductors to defense production, India is becoming a central player. This diversification not only strengthens India's own economy, but also makes it indispensable to others, creating a form of economic leverage that instills both respect and apprehension across global boardrooms and political circles. The scale of India's consumer market further amplifies its economic clout. With a burgeoning middle class projected to reach hundreds of millions more in the coming decade, India represents one of the largest demand centers in the world. For global businesses, penetrating the Indian market is no longer optional. It is essential for survival and growth. This consumer power translates into global influence as companies and nations adapt their strategies to align with Indian preferences, regulations, and demands. The fear among traditional powers lies in the realization that their dominance over global markets is being steadily eroded as India's market becomes a defining factor in global economics. India's economic growth is also backed by strategic investments in infrastructure, renewable energy, and technological research. The country is rapidly building modern highways, smart cities, and energy corridors that will sustain its growth for decades to come. Its ambitious green energy goals, particularly in solar and wind power, are setting global benchmarks and positioning India as a leader in the transition to sustainable development. This demonstrates not just growth in terms of GDP, but a forward-looking vision that ensures long-term resilience and influence. Nations that once dismissed India as a developing country struggling with poverty and inequality are now confronted with the reality of a nation that is setting the agenda for the future of energy, technology, and trade. India's unstoppable rise is, therefore, not a temporary phenomenon but a sustained march towards global dominance. Every economic milestone it achieves shifts the balance of power further away from established centers and into new hands. This rise creates unease, even fear among competitors, because it challenges not only economic supremacy, but also political influence and strategic control. India is not simply growing, it is reshaping the rules of the global economic order, and the world is watching with a mix of admiration and trepidation. India's strategic military advancements and nuclear strength form the backbone of its emergence as a global power, and they are among the most defining factors that instill caution, if not fear, among nations observing its rise. For decades, India's defense policy was centered on regional security and self-preservation, but in recent years the nation has expanded its scope, moving from a defensive stance to one of strategic assertiveness. This transformation has been made possible by sustained investment in military modernization, the indigenization of defense production, and the refinement of nuclear capabilities that not only ensure deterrence, but also project influence on the global stage. The world now sees India not as a passive regional player, but as a nation capable of shaping global security dynamics, a reality that unsettles powers that once dismissed its capabilities. One of the critical dimensions of India's military rise is its modernization program. The Indian armed forces, Army, Navy, and Air Force are undergoing a comprehensive transformation, integrating advanced technologies, next-generation weapon systems, and state-of-the-art defense infrastructure. India has invested heavily in modern fighter aircraft, missile defense systems, naval fleets, and cyber defense capabilities. The acquisition of Rafale jets, the development of indigenous Tejas aircraft, and the expansion of stealth technologies signify a shift towards building an air force that is not only capable of protecting its skies, but also of projecting power beyond its borders. Similarly, the Navy has emerged as a formidable force with nuclear-powered submarines, aircraft carriers like INS Vikrant, and enhanced blue water capabilities that give India control over key maritime zones, particularly the Indian Ocean. Which is a lifeline for global trade routes. Equally important is India's missile development program, which has positioned the nation among the world's elite in terms of ballistic and cruise missile capabilities. The Agni series, with ranges capable of reaching not only neighboring adversaries but also far beyond, serves as a credible deterrent to any nation considering aggression. Meanwhile, the BrahMos missile, jointly developed with Russia, is recognized as one of the fastest and most accurate supersonic cruise missiles in the world, giving India an edge in both precision strikes and strategic deterrence. Such advancements are not symbolic. They are practical tools that fundamentally alter the balance of power in South Asia and beyond. For rival nations, the knowledge that India possesses the capability to respond with devastating force acts as a powerful deterrent, and a source of uneased nuclear strength is another cornerstone of India's defense posture. As a declared nuclear weapons state, India has maintained a policy of credible minimum deterrence while adhering to a no-first-use principle. Yet this restraint does not diminish the significance of its nuclear arsenal. Instead, it highlights the strategic maturity with which India approaches its nuclear doctrine. India's development of nuclear-capable missiles, combined with a secure second strike capability through nuclear submarines, ensures that no adversary can contemplate an offensive without facing the certainty of catastrophic retaliation. This assured deterrence places India among the small circle of nations whose nuclear capabilities command global recognition and respect. For the international community, India's ability to wield nuclear power responsibly while still enhancing its arsenal adds to its image as both a stabilizing force and a power that cannot be underestimated. The indigenization of defense production has further elevated India's strategic position. Through initiatives like a Make in India and a strong push for self-reliance in defense manufacturing, India is reducing its dependence on foreign suppliers and building a robust domestic defense industry. The production of advanced systems such as the Arjun battle tank, the Akash missile system, and indigenous drones reflects this progress. By becoming a defense exporter as well as a consumer, India not only strengthens its economy, but also cultivates strategic partnerships with nations seeking alternatives to traditional arms suppliers. This dual role enhances India's influence while unsettling countries that once dominated the defense trade, for they now face a competitor rising from a region once considered dependent and peripheral. India's military advancements extend beyond traditional warfare into emerging domains such as cyber defense, space security, and artificial intelligence. The establishment of agencies dedicated to cyber warfare and the development of anti-satellite weapons signal India's determination to secure its interests in the digital and space frontiers, areas increasingly vital for modern conflict. In 2019, India demonstrated its ability to shoot down a satellite in space, an achievement only a handful of countries have accomplished. This advancement not only boosts India's defense capabilities, but also places it in the league of technological leaders capable of securing both terrestrial and extraterrestrial domains. For nations reliant on satellites for communication, navigation, and surveillance, India's space capabilities introduce a new dimension of strategic calculation. Regional dynamics make India's military advancements even more significant. Situated between two nuclear-armed rivals, China and Pakistan, India's defense posture is designed to address simultaneous threats. Yet, by strengthening its military, India also exerts influence across the wider Indo-Pacific region. Partnerships with the United States, Japan, Australia, and other members of the Quad reflect the trust placed in India's ability to act as a counterbalance to China's assertiveness. This growing role alarms not only adversaries but also unsettles nations that see the Indo-Pacific as a stage for their own dominance. India's ability to combine military strength with diplomatic strategy demonstrates a balance of hard and soft power that reshapes global perceptions. India's strategic military advancements and nuclear capabilities, therefore, represent far more than defense measures. They symbolize a nation that has risen from being dismissed as a developing country, struggling with internal challenges, to a force capable of influencing the highest levels of global security. Each submarine launched, each missile tested, each strategic alliance formed contributes to a narrative that India is no longer a regional afterthought, but a global power whose strength demands recognition and respect. The dominance of India's technological revolution is one of the most powerful forces driving its rise on the world stage, and it is a phenomenon that has transformed not only the country itself, but also the global perception of what India is capable of achieving. Once seen largely as an outsourcing hub for cheap labor and back-office operations, India has now established itself as a global leader in technology, innovation, and digital transformation. This shift has not happened overnight, but is the result of decades of investment in education, infrastructure, and entrepreneurship, combined with the unique resilience and creativity of its people. The sheer scale of this technological revolution has made India an indispensable player in the global economy, creating both opportunities and anxieties for other nations that now see India not only as a partner, but also as a formidable competitor. At the heart of India's technological dominance is its information technology sector, which has become a global benchmark for efficiency, innovation, and scale. Companies such as Infosys, Tata Consultancy Services, and Wipro began by providing IT services to Western corporations, but have since grown into multinational giants, driving digital transformation worldwide. India has built a reputation for being the world's service hub, but today it has gone far beyond that role, becoming a breeding ground for cutting-edge solutions in artificial intelligence, cloud computing, big data analytics, and cybersecurity. The digital expertise developed within India is no longer simply serving the needs of other nations. It is shaping the technological infrastructure of global business, government, and society. This shift unsettles established technology powers as India moves from follower to leader in the digital domain. Another defining element of this revolution is the explosion of India's startup ecosystem. Over the past decade, India has risen to become the world's third-largest startup hub, producing unicorns across sectors as diverse as fintech, edtech, healthtech, e-commerce, and mobility. Platforms like Flipkart, Byju's, Patam, and Ola are no longer just Indian success stories. They are global enterprises challenging international competitors and expanding into new markets. What makes this growth remarkable is the sheer speed at which innovation is being scaled within the country. Fueled by venture capital, government support, and a young, dynamic workforce, India's startups are solving not only local problems, but also creating models that can be replicated globally. This surge of entrepreneurial energy places India firmly at the forefront of the global innovation economy, and for many established economies, it represents a source of competitive pressure. They cannot afford to ignore. India's technological revolution is also deeply intertwined with its digital public infrastructure, a model that has astonished observers worldwide. The implementation of Aadhaar, the world's largest biometric identification system, and the development of the Unified Payments Interface, UPI, have created a digital ecosystem that is both inclusive and transformative. These innovations have allowed millions of Indians to access banking, government services, and digital transactions with unprecedented ease. The scale and efficiency of this system have become a blueprint for other nations, many of whom are studying and replicating India's digital governance models. This achievement highlights India's ability not only to innovate, but to do so at a scale unmatched by any other country. For rivals, the realization that India can implement and execute such large-scale digital programs is a source of both admiration and unease. The dominance of India's technology sector is not limited to the civilian sphere. It has critical implications for defense, space, and security as well. India's advancements in cyber capabilities, drone technology, and satellite systems are being integrated into its national security framework, giving it an edge in modern warfare and intelligence operations. The Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, has consistently delivered groundbreaking missions at a fraction of the cost incurred by Western agencies, proving that innovation does not always require vast financial resources, but rather efficiency and ingenuity. Landmark achievements such as the Mars Orbiter mission and the Chandrayaan lunar programs have placed India firmly among the world's space powers, while also showcasing its ability to combine science, technology, and cost-effectiveness in ways that disrupt traditional hierarchies. The talent driving this revolution is another critical factor. India produces millions of engineers, coders, and technology specialists every year, many of whom now occupy leadership positions in some of the world's most influential tech companies, from Google to Microsoft. This global diaspora of Indian talent not only strengthens India's reputation, but also builds networks of influence that extend far beyond its borders. The steady stream of skilled professionals ensures that India will remain a powerhouse of human capital, capable of driving innovation both domestically and internationally. For nations competing for technological dominance, this vast and highly skilled workforce is both a challenge and a reminder of India's growing clout. Government policies have also played a decisive role in nurturing this revolution. Initiatives like Digital India, Startup India, and incentives for research and development have created an environment that fosters innovation and attracts investment. The Indian government has been deliberate in its efforts to ensure that technology becomes a cornerstone of national development, with policies designed to integrate rural communities, encourage entrepreneurship, and expand digital literacy. This holistic approach ensures that India's technological revolution is not confined to urban centers or elite sectors, but is spreading across the entire social and economic landscape. India's dominance in technology, therefore, represents more than economic growth or industrial expansion. It signifies a fundamental shift in global power dynamics. Technology is the foundation upon which the future of the world will be built, and India's ability to lead in this domain gives it leverage that extends into politics, economics, and culture. Other nations recognize that they can no longer ignore or underestimate India's technological prowess, and this recognition often carries with it a sense of apprehension. The fear is not of India's growth alone, but of the disruption it creates in established systems and hierarchies, a disruption that forces the world to recalibrate its understanding of global leadership. India's demographic dividend is one of the most powerful and transformative assets propelling its rise and shaping the way the world perceives its future. At a time when many of the world's leading economies are grappling with aging populations, declining workforces, and shrinking consumer bases, India stands in stark contrast, boasting the largest youth population on Earth. With more than half of its citizens under the age of 30, India possesses a demographic advantage that is unparalleled in scale and significance. This youthful energy is not just a number. It is a force that is redefining labor markets, fueling innovation, driving consumption, and positioning India as the engine of global growth. For nations facing demographic decline, this reality is not only striking, but also intimidating, for it suggests that India holds the future in its hands. One of the most immediate impacts of India's demographic dividend is on its labor force. Every year, millions of young Indians enter the job market, swelling the ranks of one of the largest and most dynamic workforces in the world. This sheer supply of human capital is a magnet for global corporations seeking talent that is skilled, adaptable, and cost-effective. From information technology and engineering to healthcare and manufacturing, India provides a workforce that is capable of meeting the demands of both traditional industries and emerging fields. Multinational companies are increasingly setting up operations in India, not only to tap into its consumer market, but also to harness its vast pool of talent. For competitors, this creates an uncomfortable truth. While they struggle to replace retiring workers, India is producing a steady stream of educated, ambitious young professionals who are ready to take on global challenges. This demographic strength also translates into innovation and entrepreneurship. Young populations are often the most willing to take risks, adopt new technologies, and drive disruptive change, and India is no exception. The surge of startups across the country is a direct reflection of this youthful dynamism. From fintech and e-commerce to artificial intelligence and clean energy, young Indian entrepreneurs are at the forefront of creating solutions not only for local challenges, but also for global markets. The government's support through initiatives like Startup India has amplified this momentum, providing young innovators with the resources and platforms to scale their ideas. This culture of entrepreneurship is a critical component of India's rise, as it ensures that growth is not only sustained, but constantly renewed by the creative energy of its people. India's demographic dividend also manifests itself in its consumer base, which is one of the fastest growing in the world. A young population with rising incomes and aspirations is driving demand for products and services across sectors. From smartphones and digital services to automobiles and housing, India's youth are shaping global consumption patterns. This realignment of alliances is not merely about diplomacy. It is about survival, influence, and the recognition that India is a force that can no longer be ignored. One of the most striking examples of this shift is India's central role in the Indo-Pacific strategy. The region has become the focal point of 21st century geopolitics, as it is home to the most vital trade routes and the growing contest between the United States and China. For the West, India is seen as a counterbalance to China's assertiveness, a democratic power capable of shaping the strategic environment of the Indo-Pacific. The Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or QUAD, comprising India, the United States, Japan, and Australia, reflects this shift. While once hesitant to align too closely with Western powers, India now plays a crucial role in this grouping, engaging in joint military exercises, intelligence sharing, and coordinated strategies. This alignment demonstrates India's growing influence and simultaneously causes unease for China, which sees the strengthening of India's partnerships as a direct challenge to its ambitions beyond the Quad. India's relationships with major global players have undergone a dramatic transformation. The United States, once critical of India's economic policies and nuclear program, now views it as a key strategic partner. Defense agreements, technology transfers, and trade deals underscore the deepening ties between the two nations. Russia, historically India's closest defense ally, continues to maintain strong relations, supplying advanced weaponry while also engaging in joint ventures. At the same time, European powers like France and Germany are seeking closer partnerships with India, recognizing its importance in maintaining balance in a world marked by uncertainty. The fact that nations across the spectrum, from Washington to Moscow, from Paris to Tokyo, are all actively courting India, reveals the extent to which global alliances are realigning around its rise. India's role in multilateral organizations further illustrates this shift. Within forums such as BRICS, the G20, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, India has emerged as a key voice shaping discussions on trade, security, climate change, and global governance. Its presidency of the G20 highlighted its ability to bridge divides between developed and developing nations, positioning itself as a leader of the global South, while also maintaining strong ties with advanced economies. This dual identity allows India to command respect from diverse blocs, making it an indispensable player in international negotiations. For rival powers, this creates a complex challenge. India's ability to navigate multiple alliances simultaneously makes it both unpredictable and uncontainable, increasing the sense of unease about its growing role. Energy security and trade are also driving global alliances toward India. As the world transitions toward renewable energy, while still relying heavily on fossil fuels, India's strategic location and demand make it a pivotal partner. Gulf nations, historically aligned with Western powers, are increasingly deepening their ties with India, recognizing it as a crucial market for energy exports and a partner in economic diversification. Similarly, Southeast Asian nations view India as a balancing power against Chinese dominance, forging stronger economic and security partnerships. Africa, too, is witnessing India's growing presence as it invests in infrastructure, healthcare, and education, presenting itself as an alternative to both Western and Chinese influence. These expanding alliances highlight the global recognition that India's cooperation is vital for regional stability and growth. The defense sector has been one of the most dynamic areas of India's alliances. Joint exercises such as Malabar and increasing defense agreements showcase India's willingness to deepen security ties with like-minded nations. Advanced defense technology collaborations with countries like France, Israel, and the United States further elevate India's military capabilities while cementing its role as a strategic partner. For adversaries, these alliances create a new calculus, as India is no longer seen as an isolated player, but as part of a broader network of powers prepared to act collectively if its security is threatened. This network amplifies India's influence and adds to the apprehension of rivals who must now contend with a nation supported by global partnerships. What makes this shift in global alliances particularly significant is that it is not one-sided. Unlike many countries that align themselves closely with a single bloc, India has carefully maintained its strategic autonomy, balancing relations across the spectrum. It continues to purchase arms from Russia while deepening ties with the United States, engages with China within BRICS while simultaneously strengthening its position against Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific, and builds partnerships with both developed and developing nations. This strategic balancing act makes India uniquely positioned to navigate the complexities of modern geopolitics, giving it leverage over multiple stakeholders. For the established powers, this independent streak is both impressive and unnerving, as it means India cannot be easily swayed or controlled. The shift in global alliances toward India is not a temporary adjustment, but a reflection of a deeper structural change in international relations. As nations recognize India's indispensable role in shaping the future, they are recalibrating their strategies to engage with it more closely. This transformation underscores the reality that India is no longer a peripheral actor, but a central force around which alliances are being reconfigured. India's control over critical supply chains and resources has become a defining element of its rise, and one of the reasons why global powers increasingly view it with both respect and apprehension. In a world deeply interconnected through trade and production, the ability to command supply chains means the ability to influence economies, industries, and even the political decisions of other nations. For decades, control over supply chains was concentrated in a few hands, with China dominating manufacturing and the West managing high-value industries. Today, however, India is emerging as a formidable force that is steadily embedding itself into the arteries of global commerce. Its growing role in pharmaceuticals, information technology, rare resources, agriculture, and manufacturing is creating a new landscape in which no nation can afford to overlook or bypass India. This control does not just represent economic opportunity. It represents leverage, and leverage is what transforms a country into a power that inspires caution. One of the most prominent examples of India's grip on supply chains is its dominance in the pharmaceutical industry. Often referred to as the pharmacy of the world, India produces a significant share of the world's generic medicines and vaccines. During the COVID-19 pandemic, India's Serum Institute played a central role in vaccine production, supplying doses not only to its own massive population, but also to countries across Asia, Africa, and beyond. This demonstrated the extent to which the global health sector is dependent on India's pharmaceutical capabilities. For many nations, the realization that their healthcare systems rely on Indian production is both a reassurance and a vulnerability. It reassures them that India is capable of meeting global demand, but it also creates anxiety because disruptions in India could ripple across the entire world. India's role in agriculture is another crucial factor in its control over resources. As one of the largest producers of rice, wheat, sugar, and spices, India plays a vital role in global food supply. Its exports feed millions beyond its borders, and any shifts in India's agricultural policies directly affect international food markets. In times of crisis, such as droughts or conflicts that disrupt global food security, India's capacity to produce and supply becomes a matter of geopolitical significance. This agricultural strength, combined with an expanding focus on sustainable farming and food technology, gives India an enduring influence in a sector that is essential to the survival of nations. The technology sector has added another layer to India's control over supply chains. The country's IT services and software exports have already made it indispensable to global corporations, but it is now venturing deeper into electronics manufacturing and semiconductor production. Multinational companies are increasingly turning to India as a key manufacturing hub to diversify away from China. Smartphones, electronics, and critical components are now being assembled and produced in Indian factories, supported by government initiatives such as a Make in India and the production-linked incentive schemes. The long-term vision is clear. India is positioning itself as a central hub for electronics and high-tech manufacturing, and as this role expands, it will command even greater influence over global supply chains. India's energy resources and ambitions are equally significant. While it imports a substantial amount of crude oil, India has also invested heavily in renewable energy, particularly solar and wind. With some of the largest solar farms in the world and ambitious targets for clean energy production, India is on track to become a leader in renewable energy technologies and equipment. This makes it an essential partner for nations seeking to meet climate goals and reduce carbon footprints. In addition, India's strategic location in the Indian Ocean allows it to control vital maritime trade routes through which a large portion of the world's oil and goods pass. This geographic advantage translates into strategic leverage, as securing these supply lines is critical for the economies of Asia, Europe, and beyond. Rare earth elements and critical minerals are another frontier where India is expanding its presence. These resources are essential for modern industries such as electronics, defense, and renewable energy. Recognizing their importance, India has begun investing in exploration, mining, and international partnerships to secure these resources. By doing so, it reduces its own vulnerabilities while simultaneously increasing its influence over industries that rely on these materials. For advanced economies, this move signals that India is preparing not only to participate in future industries, but also to shape them by ensuring access to the raw materials they require. India's logistical capabilities are also being upgraded to solidify its role in supply chains. Massive investments in ports, highways, rail networks, and digital logistics platforms are creating a more efficient system for moving goods domestically and internationally. The Sagarmala and Bharatmala projects, for instance, are designed to modernize port infrastructure and transport corridors, enabling India to serve as a global logistics hub. This infrastructure push ensures that India is not merely producing goods, but also controlling their flow from manufacturing sites to international markets. In a world where timely delivery and resilience in supply chains are critical, India's ability to provide reliable alternatives adds to its strategic weight. The fear that arises from India's growing control over supply chains and resources is rooted in dependency. Nations understand that the more they rely on India for critical goods, whether medicines, food, technology, or energy, the greater India's leverage becomes in political and strategic negotiations. This dependency can be reassuring when relations are strong, but it becomes a source of vulnerability if interests diverge. India's ability to influence global markets through its policies, production capacities, and supply decisions means that it now holds a form of power that is not easily challenged by traditional military or political means. The rise of India's soft power and cultural influence has become one of the most profound and far-reaching aspects of its ascent, reshaping not only how the world views India, but also how it engages with the nation on every level. Unlike military strength or economic leverage, soft power is subtle, operating through ideas, values, traditions, and cultural exports that win hearts and shape perceptions. India has always had a deep reservoir of cultural wealth rooted in its ancient civilization, philosophy, art, and traditions, but in the modern era, this soft power has taken on a new form, reaching audiences across the globe through cinema, music, cuisine, spirituality, and digital media. What makes this rise significant is that it complements India's hard power, creating a balance that enhances its overall influence and instills unease in rivals who see that India is not only commanding respect through strength, but also winning admiration through culture. Bollywood stands at the forefront of India's cultural influence, producing films that reach audiences far beyond its borders. Indian cinema is no longer confined to South Asia. It is watched, celebrated, and imitated across Africa, the Middle East, Europe, and North America. The music, dance, and storytelling of Bollywood resonate with diverse audiences, spreading Indian values of family, resilience, and optimism. Streaming platforms have amplified this reach, allowing Indian films and series to capture global attention in ways never before possible. For competitors in the cultural sphere, the growing popularity of Indian cinema presents a challenge, as it carves out space in global entertainment markets traditionally dominated by Hollywood and other Western industries. Cuisine is another potent dimension of India's soft power. Indian food, with its rich diversity of flavors and traditions, has become a global staple. Restaurants serving Indian dishes can be found in every major city of the world, turning Indian cuisine into a universal comfort food. Beyond taste, Indian food represents heritage, community, and a unique cultural identity that people embrace regardless of nationality. This everyday cultural presence strengthens India's image worldwide, embedding it into the daily lives of millions who may never visit the country but still experience its richness through food. For other nations, this quiet but pervasive spread of culture creates influence that is difficult to replicate or counter. Spirituality and philosophy are areas where India's influence runs deep. The global popularity of yoga, meditation, and Ayurveda reflects the world's fascination with India's ancient wisdom. Yoga, in particular, has transcended borders to become a multi-billion-dollar global industry, embraced by millions seeking physical health, mental peace, and spiritual balance. International Yoga Day, celebrated across nations, is a testament to India's ability to transform its cultural practices into global movements. Similarly, Ayurveda and holistic health traditions are gaining traction as alternatives to modern medicine, reinforcing India's role as a source of timeless knowledge. These practices carry with them not just utility, but also values of harmony, balance, and interconnectedness, subtly influencing how people across the globe view life and well-being. The Indian diaspora plays a vital role in amplifying this soft power. With millions of Indians living and thriving across North America, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, the diaspora serves as cultural ambassadors, blending Indian traditions with local societies.